Right. Hats on, gentlemen. There we are. Now, tonight we'll start with March of the Toreadors from the top. I will give you 2 for nothing. Are we all ready? Here we go, then. 1, 2, 2, 2. I'm sorry about that. Where is Mr. Braithwaite?
Oh, he's not here, Mr. Beddington.
Yeah, well, I can see he's not here, Mr. Herbert. How could you let me start March of the Toreadors without Mr. Braithwaite? He does have the cornet solo.
Shall I fill in for him?
How do you propose to do that? Yeah. Well, as it's 7:30, I'll have to make do with that. Right, everybody, March of the Toreadors. From the top, I will give you 2 for nothing. Are you ready? 1, 2.
Excuse me, Mr. Beddington.
Well, yes, Mr. Giles.
Would you like me to use my big ones? Or my little ones?
Just a moment. Mr. Herbert, you did the arrangement. Mr. Giles wishes to know, shall he use the big or the little ones?
Well, as the arrangement was intended for the open air, I'd visualize it to be the big ones, but in view of the confined space, I think little ones.
Ah, right, so,
yes.
Little ones, Mr. Giles.
But the big ones in the open air.
Quite so. I'll give you a definite...
Will you give me a 3?
No, I'll give you 1.
But you gave me a 3 then.
Yeah, well, that was just to get you accustomed to the sight of the stick. Oh, March of the Toreadors from the top, gentlemen. I'll give you 2 for nothing. Here we go. 1, 2, 2, 2. Miss Harvey, what are you playing?
Oh, it's what's wrote down.
Well, we're either coming in too early or too late. You must watch the stick all the time. Apologies to you, gentlemen. From the top, March of the Toreadors. I'll give you 2 for nothing. Here we go. 1, 2, 2, 2.
Look, A crotchet, B flat crotchet, F semiquaver, G semiquaver.
Yes, but we are playing March of the Toreadors. This is the entrance of the gladiator. Must have sounded wrong to you. Why didn't you say something?
Well, you, sir, to talk to.
March of the Toreadors, 2 for nothing. Are you ready, gentlemen? 1, 2, 2, 2.
Right. Who's for coffee and who's for cocoa?
Mrs. Tickford, you must... Mrs. Tickford, you must not interrupt me when I am conducting.
I'm sorry, Mr. Beddington, but we must know, you know. Otherwise it'll all go to waste.
Yes, of course. All those who would like coffee, put their hands up. Cocoa!
That makes 25. There's 1 missing.
Yes, Mr. Giles. Mr. Giles! Give him coffee. It will keep him awake.
3 minutes or you'll have cold coffee. There's only that much gas left in the cylinder. You'd think with all that gas coming out of the North Sea, they could have hooked us up to the main lot. Not a bit of it. It all goes straight past us to the big city.
It's the cost of the pipes, Miss Mayhew. It would have entailed drilling into tertiary Devonian folds. You see,
Mr. Herbert.
Yes, I've explained to Miss Mayhew. It's rather
Mr.
interesting with this
Herbert,
particular rock formation.
Could we leave the problem of the fuel until after the band?
Sorry, Mr. Beddington.
Mrs. Tickford, shut your trap.
Beg your pardon?
The shutter. Would you close it, please? I don't like being peered at when I'm conducting. March of the Toreadors. I'll give you 2 for nothing when you're ready, gentlemen. 1, 2, 2, 2. will in the world. We cannot have that.
The paper's gone soggy. Perhaps it'd be better if I used cardboard.
No, I don't think so. I'm not that either.
My kids uses doo-doos.
What a doo-doo.
Them the middle bits from toilet rolls. They push them up to their mouths and they goes doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo.
We won't have those either.
If we're not going to play, I'm going home.
Mr. Giles, please sit down. I agree with you, but sit down. March of the Toreadors, gentlemen, from the top I will give you 2 for nothing.
Excuse me, Mr. Bennington, what about the cornet solo?
We'll imagine it. 1, 2, 2, 2. Quite certain. Stop. Shut up, you lot! Now, Mr. Braithwaite has some news for us. It's very urgent and it concerns us all. Thank you, Mr. Giles.
I was fed up with waiting, so I did it. You've no idea of the tension that builds up in a person just standing there counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then not being able to do it. Well, I've done it. Over there.
Why we took him off the xylophone, I'll never know. Carry on, Mr. Braithwaite.
Well, as you all know, they're looking for a site for a new airport. And today, the ministry finally made up its mind again. It's us.
No, I don't believe it.
We had all that rubbish 10 years ago and fought it off.
I know that's what we all thought, but the air traffic keeps growing and growing, and the problem just won't go away. Apparently, we're about to be served with an official notice.
Just think of it. All that noise. It'll be unbearable.
But this village has been here since the Norman conquest. I say they can't come. Yes? Right.
We all say they can't come. Well, our course is clear. We must form an action committee, draw up a plan of campaign, and nip this project in the bud.
And I agree we'll all meet here tomorrow night at 7:30. Agreed?
Agreed.
Right.
Why wait until tomorrow night? Why not meet now when we're already met?
Yes, why not meet now?
I'll tell you why. Because for the last 100 years, this band has met here every Tuesday and Thursday to rehearse. Now, we are not going to let a lot of noisy, smelly aeroplanes interfere with our tradition. I think you'll agree with that. Right. From the top. March of the Toreadors. I will give you 2 for nothing. Here we go. 1, 2, 2, 2. Good evening, Mr. Herbert.
Mr. Bennington, you're here. Good.
We appear to be the first here. Have you any idea who's coming?
Well, Mr. Braithwaite's been round canvassing everybody.
Has he really? He's rather marvellous at that sort of thing, isn't he?
Yes, if we're not careful, he'll be the chairman of the committee.
Yes, he will. What's wrong with that?
Well, don't you realise? The land they intend to build the airport on belongs to Mr. Braithwaite. Most of it. They'd offer him millions for it.
We'll have to vote against him.
But you know how he can talk people round. I mean, suppose it was 50-50. As chairman, he'd have the casting vote, he'd sell the land, and where would we be?
Standing on the runway.
Precisely.
Well, who do you suggest should be chairman?
Well, you, Mr. Bennington.
No.
Yes,
no.
you, yeah.
No, I couldn't be chairman. What about you?
Oh, well, nobody takes any notice of me.
Yes, that's true. But I couldn't be chairman. I'm just a piano tuner.
It's a highly respected profession. I mean, who did they send for when Liberace's piano went flat at the Palladium?
That was just an accident. I was sitting in the stalls. A gentleman came on and said, "Is there a piano tuner in the house?" Piano tuner, yes, but I couldn't make a speech.
Well, I've taken care of that.
Yeah.
I've written one for you.
Have you? I wouldn't know how to deliver it.
Mr. Bennington, the future of this village could depend on you. It could. And I'm backing you 100%. Look, I'll show you what I've got set up.
I say, what's all this?
This is hi-fi equipment. I've got a record here of a jumbo landing. I thought that at the psychological moment, we could play it and bring home to people exactly the sort of noise they're going to be up against.
Good idea.
Now, I've also got this. here.
It smells like paraffin.
Yes, well, it contains aircraft fuel. Large planes taking off deposit gallons and gallons of this noxious stuff all over the surrounding countryside.
What's that over there?
Ah, yes. Now, that is a blower from a grain dryer. It should give a pretty accurate indication of the sort of air turbulence caused by low-flying jet engines.
My word, you've thought of everything.
Oh, it's just on 7:30 and Mr. Braithwaite isn't here yet. Let's call the meeting quickly, shall we? Everybody, do come and sit down. Will you bring your cocoa and coffee with you? He said.
Do come and sit down and make yourself comfortable.
Yes, we've got a lot to get through.
My word, we have. Wait a minute, is this all there are?
Oh, yes, I'm afraid so.
Doesn't the public realise how important this meeting is? We should be swamped with people.
Tis Elsie Tanner.
Elsie Tanner?
She's gone to hospital.
I don't know her. Does she live around this place?
Coronation Street.
Apparently, she was on the roof of the Rovers trying to adjust the TV aerial and she slipped. They think she's broke a leg.
Ah, don't worry. The wife's sending the lad over with the news, so we'll know as soon as they do.
Oh, I'm glad about that.
Yeah, she should have asked her boyfriend to do it. It's the least he could do after all the trouble he's caused her.
Yes, could we get on with the matter in hand?
Yes.
Yes.
Who's this lady over here?
This is my niece, Glenda. She's going to help out at the hall with the accounts.
I'm going to help out at the hall with the accounts.
She's just done secretarial college. I thought she could take the minutes.
Good idea, don't you think so, Mr. Bennington?
Very good idea. Who's the lady over there?
Oh.
It's that woman who moved into Thistle Cottage. I think she's some sort of an artist or something.
Oh, yes, I've heard about it. What's her name?
Vanessa Draper.
Vanessa Draper, yes.
Hey, I say, she's only been here about 8 months. I don't think she can form part of our action committee.
No, you're probably right, actually. It's
You don't think so?
No.
Could you tell her, Mr. Bennington? Yes.
I'll tell Mrs. Draper. Mrs. Draper, could I have a word with you, please?
You must be Mr. Beddington, the director of that marvellous band. I particularly enjoyed your interpretation of Waltz of the Toreadors.
Very kind of you. Welcome to our committee. Would you...
Good evening.
Good evening. Right, shall we start then?
Mr. Turtle, we have got a very important meeting going on here. Now, what I want...
You've been nagging me for 12 weeks to fix this roof. Now, do you want me to do it or not?
Oh, my word, I want you to do it all right. Yes, indeed. But I don't want you to do it now.
Right. On your own head be it. Come on, Mr. Cathcart.
Now, Mr. Turtle, there is no need really to take offence. We're all meeting here to stop the building of this airport.
It'll bring a lot of work to local people.
I think he's expecting the contract to build it.
If they ask me for an estimate, I shall tender as usual.
I do hope we haven't offended him.
Your speech, Mr. Bennington.
Yes, indeed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the meeting. We're gathered to elect the committee to plan our campaign to fight off the threat of the airport.
You'll have to go a bit slower. You can't expect anyone to keep up with the rate you're going at.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the meeting. We're gathered to elect the committee to plan... Look, I'm sorry, I can't compete with the noise of the machine. Can you write it down and type it later?
Well, all right, if that's what you want.
Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the committee. We're gathered
You're still going too fast.
We're gathered to elect the committee
Committee?
to plan our campaign. It's no good, I can't do it this way. Look, remember it and write it out later.
It is raining outside. It's coming down in buckets.
What are Mrs. Tickford and Mrs. Mayhew doing here? They're just a couple of gossips. We'll get nothing done.
I quite agree, but Mrs. Tickford does run the post office.
Mrs. Mayhew, she serves. That's all she does. She serves at the shop.
We can't ask her to leave.
And why not?
She makes the coffee.
She makes the coffee. Anybody, I can make a cup of coffee.
Yes, but she owns the percolator.
Welcome to the committee, ladies. Come and sit down. Find 3 chairs.
Right. Well, look, as there are so few of us, I think that we should form the action committee. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yes?
Okay,
Right,
yes,
right,
right.
yes. as most of this committee seems to consist of members of the band, and Mr. Beddington here is the chairman of the band committee, I propose him as chairman of the action committee.
really?
Agreed?
Yes,
Agreed.
agreed.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry I'm late, everybody. It wasn't anything too serious. Just a minor fracture. It's only been plaster for a couple of weeks.
Who will?
What? Elsie Tanner.
Will she be able to enter in the dance contest?
We shan't know until next week. Have I missed anything?
Mr. Beddington just made himself chairman.
Beddington? Chairman? Well, I should have thought as the largest landowner here that I should have been made chairman.
You weren't here, Mr. Braithwaite.
Oh, well, I'm here now. And I demand a recount.
I don't think our chairman would agree to that.
No, I think it's only fair.
Before the recount, just 1 or 2 points. Mr. Sarby, just to remind you that you're my foreman, you've got a cottage on my land, and I have a very big bulldozer. It's not a threat. I want you to remember, that's all. Glenda, you start work with me next Monday, or not, as the case may be. Mrs. Tickford, just to remind you that I spend over £2,000 a year in your shop and your post office, and the hall is well within the delivery range of Fortnum & Mason's. I just throw that in. Right, all those in favour of me, hands up now. Come on. 1, 2, 3, that's 4. 4?
Yeah. Well, now, all those in favour of Mr. Beddington. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, yes, and Mr. Beddington. 5.
The chairman can't vote for himself.
But he wasn't the chairman when you called for a recount. You started again.
Well, but then I could have voted for myself.
But you abstained.
Am I still chairman?
Oh, yes, Mr. Beddington, yes.
Make a note of that, Glenda.
Oh, there's a block gone on my pad.
Oh, it's that roof. We should have let him mend it.
Oh, he'll never come back. 6 months I was waiting when the gale blew the door off my outside lavatory. I could only go at night.
We go at night.
Glenda, don't put that down. Don't put that down. Just put down the important bits.
Well, which are the important bits?
When he speaks.
Could we allow our esteemed chairman to continue his inaugural address?
Yes. Well,
yeah.
Before we start,
Yes.
let us be quite clear what we're fighting against. Look round, meaningful force.
No, you're not supposed to read that. That's in brackets.
Oh, yes. First, there's the noise.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me a moment. I've fixed up a demonstration to show you the kind of noise we're going to be up against.
Well, I think you'll agree that was a very good demonstration.
And there's the pollution.
A very convincing pollution, I agree.
It's all gone in my tea.
Now, there's one other thing we're going to have to be up against, and that's the turbulence each time a plane lands.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I came as soon as I could. Where should I sit?
Come and sit at the table, at the corner there, Vicar. Come and sit there.
Along this end, Vicar.
Thank you. It's young Mr. Sowerby, isn't it?
That's right.
Yes, I haven't seen you in my church for 27 years.
Well, I makes up for it.
Well, how do you do that?
I watch Stars on Sunday on me knees.
Mr. Herbert is just about to give us a demonstration of the turbulence we can expect if they build an airport here.
Oh, good. Go ahead. We're going to have the turbulence centre.
Oh, that'll be nice, dear.
He's gone home. He said his doctor told him to keep out of drafts.
We all agree that has been a very good demonstration. We all know what we are up against. The question is, how do we fight it? What are the main points we are going to fight on?
Well, what are they, Mr. Chairman?
Well,
I think our esteemed chairman can't think of any. Well, let's take the historical associations. The first church was built on this site by King Athelfred the Unready. It was burnt down by Eric the Viking, rebuilt by Throttletus the Unwary, burnt down by Hilda the Saxon, rebuilt by Stephen the Norman, burnt down by Cromwell, rebuilt by Charles II.
Oh, I'd no idea the church went back so far. who built the present one?
McAlpine in 1932.
There must be other places of... Because this is a place of...
Of great natural beauty.
Of great natural beauty.
25,000 acres of it is bog.
It's only bog when you put your foot in it.
Yeah, but it pongs in the summer.
So does my outside lavatory.
Don't put that down, Glenda.
I think that I may have found the solution. The copse in direct line of the proposed runway happens to be the nesting place of the lesser-crested bell-beaked thrustle warbler.
Get away.
Yes, it's the last known habitat of this bird in England. It spends the rest of the year in Africa.
How is that going to help us?
It's an endangered species. The Minister of Agriculture would be duty-bound to come down on our side.
Well, I've never even heard of it.
But I got a picture of it. Here.
Ah, oh, my word, isn't that lovely?
Yes.
Good heavens.
Our cat had one of they last year. The wife thought her that pretty, she stuffed it and put it in her hat.
You mean to say that your cat actually destroyed one of the last of the living species of this beautiful bird?
Well, a cat wouldn't know, would he? You can't blame the cat.
Well, that would explain why this year only one pair returned. Anyway, I've contacted the ministry and I've alerted them, and they're sending down a representative on Friday to confirm the sighting.
Ah, good. Now that should start things moving in our favour.
Well, there is one slight snag.
What is that, Mrs. Draper?
Well, I spotted the bird last week and set up my easel to sketch it. Well, unfortunately, my vacuum flask exploded and the thing flew away.
Yes, but I've no doubt it's back by this time.
Oh, well, I'm afraid not. I've been back every day this week and there's no sign.
I wouldn't bother about that. It'll return and nest somewhere else.
Well, that's no help to us. I told the man from the ministry it was nesting here.
Yeah, and if he comes down and it's not there, bang goes one of our chances of saving the village.
In that case, we must play for time and give the bird a chance to come back.
That was just what I was going to suggest.
Well, what I'll do is I'll get on to the man from the ministry and put him off for a few days.
Oh, if the worst comes to the worst, we shall just have to sell and get the best price we can.
Thank you, gentlemen. Same time Thursday, 7:30.
Mr. Bennington,
What time do you call this? The band call is over.
well, I'm sorry I'm late, but I tried to put the man from the ministry off and I couldn't, so he's coming down on Friday willy-nilly.
Good evening. Any sign of the bird?
Oh, I'm afraid not, but I think Mr. Herbert has solved the problem.
Really? How did you manage that?
Well, I borrowed the stuffed one from Mrs. Sowerby's hat.
If she finds out, I might as well stick my head in the mango crusher and turn the handle myself.
You're not telling me a stuffed bird is going to deceive a man from the Ministry of Agriculture?
Oh, Mr. Braithwaite, look at this. There. We have improved it a bit.
Well, where's the improvement? It's still a stuffed bird.
Ah, yes. But inside is a mechanism from a model aeroplane that I confiscated from one of the boys at my school. And all I have to do is tweak this transmitter and look.
Ah! My word, that's very, very good. Can he do anything else?
Yes, it can do tail up.
Yeah.
When I press this control, it goes... That's the mating call.
No wonder they're so rare.
See, we're gonna fix that up in a tree, and he won't come too near for fear of frightening it, so we might get away with it.
Ah, don't be silly.
Well, have you a better suggestion?
Don't suppose you could make it fly?
Ah. Well, I could stick a rocket in it and ignite the fuse electric. Of course, it would leave a trail of sparks and a lot of smoke coming from the back end.
I don't suppose they're noted for that sort of thing.
Not really, no.
No, well, I think we'll stick to what we've got. No, wait, I think we should stop here for a second and send a scout ahead. Mr. Giles, would you be kind enough to creep forward and see if you can spot anything? Well done. You've got to admire these country folk. They have the ability to blend in with the scenery. And what is more important, of course, they can move so silently.
Bloody thistle!
Most of the time.
Oh, Lord, look, for heaven's sake, hurry. It should have been ready 3 minutes ago.
Well, I just gotta tie the feet.
Are you ready?
Oh, give us half a minute.
What shall I say?
Oh, dear,
Tell him it's,
Tell him he's got a bad eye. Tell him it's mating.
It's mating. Roger.
Got it.
Right. Quick,
hurry. Out the way, love. Out the way, love. Oh. Right. Okay, let's go.
Do you think it'll be much longer? Well, we have to be very careful, don't we? After all, this is a last nesting place in the British Isles. Mr. Giles, any news?
They're just mating.
Oh. Will it take very long?
I don't know. He's being as quick as he can.
Right, I'm switched on.
When he puts his binoculars up, I'll wave and you tweak.
Right.
I think that's the tree.
By Jove, yes, on that branch.
Yeah. Look at it through my binoculars. Good evening, gentlemen. Before we start, I think you'll be interested to know that I've heard from the Ministry of Agriculture. You remember the representative who came to see us the other day?
Yes.
Well, I have the letter here. I'll read it to you. Excuse me. Dear sir, following investigations, we have to tell you that 8 other nests of the warbler thrush have been sighted. So you'll be glad to hear that the species as a whole is not endangered as was at first thought.
Oh, dear.
No, wait, it's not finished yet. However, your specimen appears to be the only example of the much rarer branch-hanging variety. And we will therefore be making representation to the Ministry of Environment on your behalf.
I'd like to propose a vote of thanks to our chairman.
I don't know why you're all applauding him. It was my copse the bird nested in. I gave you permission to go on my land. It was my foreman who put the bird up the tree, and my phone you used to phone the ministry.
Mr. Braithwaite, if you are going to blow your own trumpet, I suggest you take it out of the case first. Hats on, gentlemen.
Hey, I see the wife's got the bird back on her hat.
Yeah, I think I've got away with it, provided she don't get any interference from any electrical gadgets.
Right,
Never had time to get the works out.
March of the Toreadors from the top. I will give you 2 for nothing. Here we go. 1, 2, 2, 2.
Sight, and with the guns, and with the
well-known
8,
one-legged cat
7,
dancer.
6, 5, 4, 3.
Thank you, Mrs. Draper. It's very kind of you to show your appreciation.
Oh, you have such wonderful command over them all.
Well, of course, they do know if they don't watch me, they'll be completely at sea. Why are you still sitting there? They're usually halfway through their coffee by now.
We haven't got to the end yet. You're so busy chatting Mrs. Draper up, you haven't done the coda.
Haven't I? Oh, I'm very sorry. There's a cocoa stain over it. Here we go. I'll give you 2 for nothing. Oh, 1, 2, 2, 2.
Oh, I'm glad we did that. Fancy going home with that inside of you.
That was a bit late, wasn't it, Mr. Giles?
Well, you didn't give me my beat.
I most certainly did. I went like that.
Well, you can't expect me to see a little twitch like that. Not at my age.
Come and get it.
Right, thank you, gentlemen. I'm afraid tempers are a little short. I think it's the worry of this new airport they're going to build. Nerves are on edge.
Yes, well, I'm afraid the news isn't good. Despite all our efforts, the survey is still going on.
Oh, dear me. Now, that is bad news,
Look,
isn't it?
you're mentioned down at the bottom under Villagers Fight On.
Am I really? That is nice.
Oh, am I mentioned? Yes. It says, rich landowner stands to make $1 million if scheme goes through.
Good heavens. Does it actually say $1 million? Not that I'd sell out, of course.
I say, listen to this. The Village Action Committee, led by M.T. Bennington, piano tuner and well-known bandmaster, age 56. Now, why do they always have to put the age? It's of no interest to anybody.
If you do sell it, do it mean I has to lose my cottage?
I wouldn't, sir. Well, of course, you'd be compensated.
He'd drive you to the station in his car.
You know, it says here I've lots of ideas up my sleeve to continue the fight. Who told them that?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, well, what are these wonderful ideas of yours?
Now, I suggest that before you come up with all your ideas, we hear everybody else's.
Yes, that's a good idea. Mr. Giles, have you anything running around in your mind?
What about?
About stopping the building of the airport. We've got to bring the nation's attention to our plight.
Well, why don't we draw straws? And whoever draws the shortest goes to Ascot and throws himself before the Queen's horse.
I don't think that's a very practical suggestion these days.
Nor do I. Have you any idea what it costs to go to Ascot? Yes, Mr. Sarby, if you wish to leave the room, by all means do so.
I got a suggestion.
Pay attention, everybody. This is bound to be good.
Mr. Pilgrim, allow Mr. Sarby to speak.
Why don't we get all Mr. Braithwaite's tractors and his combine harvester, drive them all up to London and park them outside 10 Downing Street?
I've never heard of anything so ridiculous. My tractors are employed every minute of the day working my land. If we can't come up with something better than that, I'm going.
I think he's hoping our plan will fail so that he can sell.
I've heard that.
Eh?
It's quite untrue. If I sold the land for £1 million, I'd spend another $1 million buying somewhere else, wouldn't I? So the money doesn't appeal to me.
I heard it was $5 million.
How much?
Only money, Mr. Braithwaite. It wouldn't interest you. I think you're quite right, you know. He's not on our side at all. His heart isn't in it.
Well, that's why we wanted to make you chairman, Mr. Bennington.
Yes, and if I may say so, I think you made a very wise choice. What are we going to do?
Well, we're trying to come up with ideas to publicise our cause.
Now, I know that you're saving your idea till last, so can I tell you mine?
Yes. I think we can go along with that, can't we? Yes.
Good. Well, they wouldn't build an airport at Woolcaster because of all the Roman remains.
No, but how does that help us?
Well, we've got Roman remains here.
Yes, but They were dug up years ago.
Well, anything of any interest is in the curio room at the vicarage.
Ah, but my father was on the original dig. He said there was stacks more stuff down there. Only they had to stop because the land was made into a car park.
Which car park?
The one beside the church.
What are you getting at, Mr. Herbert?
Well, if Daddy was right and we found some more remains in the same place, we could probably stop the whole operation on the grounds of historical interest.
But the vicar wouldn't like it if we dug up his car park.
But we'd have to do it without him knowing.
It's made of concrete and tarmac.
We need one of the pneumatic drills.
The vicar will hear that. He can hear me when I snore during his sermon.
Well, I've got a plan to get round that.
Before we decide, why don't we hear Mr. Beddington's plan?
No. I think one plan is enough for one day. We'll save my plan for some other time. I say we vote for Mr. Herbert's idea, whatever it is. Right, gentlemen. Mr. Herbert's arrangement of the Pneumatic Symphony. Mr. Sarby, you ready on the drill?
I'm hooked up, but I got no air.
You'd better signal Mr. Giles on the generator.
Right. No, not that. The generator.
Do you want the generator?
Yes. Shh. Really, Mr. Braithwaite, you should have worked the generator.
I can't do that in my position. What would people say?
Mr. Pilgrim, would you give him a hand?
He won't take kindly to it. You know how independent he is.
Be tactful.
Grab hold of that, Mr. Herbert.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of the way, you stupid old nit. How do you turn the air on?
I shan't tell you because you were rude to me.
I'll stamp on your cymbals.
All right, bully. It's that one. Oh, right. I beg pardon. It's that one. I'll give them the signal.
Right, stand by, gentlemen. I'll give you 2 for nothing. Or 1, 2, 2, 2.
Right, it is the band.
Well, thank heavens for that. I thought I was getting Radio 1 on this thing. It was a bit livelier than usual. What do you suppose they call it?
Well, there are no bands, so it can't be the 1812.
Well, I've heard enough of it. Let's get on with the flowers.
I'm sorry they're so poor lately. It's been so dry.
I shall have to pray for a little rain, shan't I? I'm working well for that.
Very good. What is it exactly?
Well, I started off trying to do a tall, thin vase.
Well, in view of the time, I settle for chunky ashtray. And that's very nice, Miss Mayhew, but I wouldn't widen it any more.
But I've got to, I'm afraid. I've lost the cap to my tooth.
Oh, dear. How did it go?
That was without doubt the most embarrassing moment of my whole life.
Oh, I don't know. What about that time up at the hall with they two land girls when you thought the wife was fire watching down at the library?
That was nearly 40 years ago.
Come along, don't let's bicker amongst ourselves. Think positively. What have we got out of it?
Speaking for myself, a wet crutch. That's about the worst idea you've had yet.
It wasn't his idea. It was mine.
Well, it was bad enough to be one of his.
You didn't have one single idea of any description. You just walked out of here hoity-toity with your nose in the air, as though you owned the place.
Well, I damn nearly do.
Well, here is the sum total of our dig.
1 bun penny, 1 suspender catch, and a